Hi, everyone. We're here with MedSpa Trends TV interviewing Jay Erazo and his wife, the nurse injector. These are co-founders of this MSO. We're going to explain what this is, but this is mind-blowing. We're going to go into all the tactics behind the value of this MSO. There's no model that I'm aware of in the country of this model. And you can also refer to our other episode with Iggy about Vansanity or Cloud MedSpa. So with that, Jay, I'd love to have you start out just telling us a little bit about what blew you away about this model for people in the med spa industry.
First of all, thank you for having me. And yes, we are Advancing Aesthetics. We are the first cloud med spa in Chicago, in fact, the whole Midwest. What really attracted me to this new business model, because it is very different than a traditional medical spa, is that it's rentable, scalable, and on demand. And basically, what we allow is for providers to come in and utilize our space on an hourly basis. We provide them with all the tools, so the room, all the devices, and the ability to purchase any and all product they need to perform their treatments. So essentially, they have a medical spa without the financial burden or signing leases, and it gives them the ability to immediately begin practicing. So we provide everything. The one thing we don't provide is the patients. That's one responsibility that falls on the provider's shoulder. But having said that, we do help them in working on their business plan. And we primarily say, begin with your social circle. Utilize your friends, your family, your co-workers. Everybody that wants to help you in this journey will step up to help you begin.
So, yes. And we're going to MSO. So MSO stands for Management Services Organization. And the best analogy I can give you is a lot of hotels are not managed by the hotel itself. There's a management organization that really knows their stuff that come in and they manage that hotel for the physical structure. And essentially what Jay's organization is doing in Chicago is mind-blowing because people who found med spas and aesthetics practice don't realize there are restrictions. If you're not a medical doctor or have the credentials to be your own medical director, there's a massive amount of hoops you need to jump through. And I'd love you to go into that, Jay. What kind of hoops are you getting rid of when someone is founding their own practice?
So that's a good question because this is still a medical procedure and there's a lot of steps and requirements. In order to become a practicing member at our Cloud Med Spa, there's basically two things that are required. The first is each provider needs to get their own malpractice insurance. And that's very easy to get and very inexpensive. I got a couple of websites that I direct them to, and it costs between $80 and $100 per month to get that insurance. The second thing, as you mentioned, is unless you are a physician or you are a nurse practitioner with full practice authority, you do need to work under the supervision of a medical director. In the state of Illinois, the rules are a little bit different. A nurse practitioner with full practice authority can provide that required oversight. So right now in our world, I have 3 clinical directors that are providing that service, that oversight to all the nurse practitioners that are part of our MSO.
That's great. And then a couple of other things I'll add in there because I've had to go through this with a couple of our founders. Finding a medical director is not fun and it can get very, very expensive. And I know your rates, one of my clients is moving into your facility. Your rates for the medical director is extraordinarily low compared to what she was going to be paying. And then another thing that happens, how would you explain what happens with the bank account and an MSO? And how do you manage that in advancing aesthetics?
Okay, so once you become a practicing member, which means you got your insurance and then you have an agreement in place with a clinical or medical director. Yes, in our world or in our state, I am providing that via nurse practitioner. So the cost is much more affordable than going with a medical doctor. Once you have received those 2 documents, upload those into our software. Our compliance team will make sure that everything is in good order, that you have the appropriate insurance, and that you have the proper oversight. Then basically what I do is I literally go into my system and mark this person as active. On day one, they are able to reserve rooms, able to buy product at wholesale prices, and also rent devices. Part of the mobile app that they are utilizing for all this is that they do need to input some banking information, bank or credit card. And so basically, we utilize a system called Stripe that collects the monthly membership fee from the provider, collects the per hour fee that they use or pay to rent a room. It also is utilized to purchase the product. And so that Stripe system basically puts all the parties together and allows the system to work all via a mobile app. So literally from your cell phone, the nurse practitioner can reserve a room, reserve devices, buy the equipment, and then they show up here. Everything is in the room. And then in that 1, 2, 3 hours that they reserve, they can see 1, 2, 3, 5 patients. It's up to them. Very seamless, very easy. One of the big advantages of the cloud medspa is that we are using technology and innovation to make things easy, faster, and quicker, not just for the practitioner, but also me, the cloud medspa, and then ultimately the patient.
That's great. So I won't go into all the details, but I have two questions for you. Do they have to hire a lawyer to set up the medical director arrangement, or is that pretty much taken care of with your processes? And the second thing is, how does it work? So you're familiar with the sweep account and what they need to do if they were to set up an MSO themselves? Can they just set up a regular old business bank account and then the other complicated piece is managed by Advancing Aesthetics?
Yeah, so, okay, let me answer the first one. In terms of a clinical director or medical director agreement, that piece is handled by the actual doctor or nurse practitioner that's going to provide the oversight. They provide the agreement that the nurse practitioner will sign off. The agreement is between those two parties, and the nurse will pay the $500 fee directly to the nurse practitioner that's the clinical director or the doctor that's the medical director. Me, as the cloud med spa, I'm not involved in that transaction. All I'm required is that I see a agreement between those two parties. They're both signed off, and that it says that our provider has the proper oversight required by law for the state of Illinois. Now, in terms of the second question from a money standpoint, each nurse practitioner, each physician assistant have and see their own patients, and they will collect the treatment fees directly from the patient. Me, as the cloud med spa, I'm not involved in that at all. So the nurse can say, I take cash only, or they can say Zelle me, Venmo, PayPal,
Mhm.
or they can utilize a credit card service, whichever one they prefer. It's up to them. It's their business, they're individual, independent providers. And so it's up to them on how they want to run that part. But me, as the cloud med spa, I'm not involved in collecting any money that comes from the patient. That's directly done by the nurse.
Okay, so it's safe to say, I hope it is safe to say that you're confident that the medical directors that are involved with Advancing Aesthetics have the contracts down to a science where they won't have to have these big legal fees and figure out all the
Nope.
details. So that's amazing because that saves them a couple $1,000s right there easily, and also headaches and risks. And then the second thing is setting up this MSO bank account. It sounds like you've got that down to a science too, that the pieces that complicate the bank account, the banking regulations surrounding the MSO is taken care of. So then the treatments and the services that they're providing just run through their regular bank account, their business bank account.
That's right. That's right. So
That's huge.
the Stripe system that's being utilized by Cloud MedSpa connects the provider and their bank account with me, the actual medical spa, in my bank account, and everything is interconnected. None of us have to pay any additional fees. right? So the nurse buys 2 vials of Dysport, money gets taken out of their account for the Dysport, and then the Stripe system will then pay me for when I purchase on their behalf. So
Okay.
yes, it's very seamless. Again, using technology and innovation to make that piece easy for the provider, easy for me. It's very simple.
Okay. And so everything's being delegated, the purchasing, and that's being delegated to you, which is amazing in itself. I don't want to make anyone's head explode, but I hope you understand how mind-blowing that is not to have that on. And then the other thing too, I'm assuming that they're also taking advantage of aggregate price that
That's right.
they're
That is
new.
absolutely right.
You don't realize
So
how much more new practitioners spend.
a traditional medical spa has between 2 and 5 injectors, with 3 being the sweet spot. Our Cloud Med Spa, we have over 12, what we call MSOs, 12 individual locations. And I believe we're up to 500 plus injectors across all 20 locations in the United States. So basically, we're buying with national accounts and we're buying with huge volumes, which we are then passing that down to the nurses that come on board as members. So basically, on day one, a nurse will have purchasing or buying power. They will be able to buy Botox, Xeomin, Dysport, Daxxify at rates that are equal or lower than medical spas that have been open for years,
Mhm.
because their buying is based off 5 injectors. Ours are based off 500. So as we grow, we're hoping that our purchasing power increases and we'll be able to compete with the largest practices out there.
That's great. We don't want to make people's heads explode, but I'm familiar with this whole concept of aesthetic suite. Does exist out there, like in New York, there's Nilo, but they're just offering a location
That's
and
right.
they have equipment you can rent and that, but it's not an MSO. And they don't even get involved with anything. They may by courtesy introduce you to a medical director, but they don't get involved with that stuff. So the fact that Advancing Aesthetics, which is part of Cloud Med Spa, the bigger umbrella that's based in Boston, they're the ones with all of these locations and the 2 concept locations, one in Dallas, one in Boston at the moment, and growing like crazy. You happen to have the first Cloud Med Spa that they've opened in the Chicagoland area, right?
That's
So
correct.
if any of you are in Chicago, talk to Jay. And then also know that if you're looking for a job, let's talk about that too, because people don't realize when you transition from traditional medical care or just a career change into laser, right? So I'm assuming you have laser as well, or is it just injections?
We have all the injectables we cover. We also have microneedling
Mhm.
through a device called via skin pen, PRP. And one of the advantages of being part of the Cloud Med Spa model is that I do have access to many different devices that I can bring onto our location and incorporate into our practice, so that as a group, as a consensus, we can decide which device they want to use, which one they want to learn, and we also talk about which one's the most profitable for them.
Mhm.
So I don't want to make the decision for them. I want to allow them to have decision-making process in this. They are involved, they're active members. I don't decide what to inject, what skin product line we're going to carry. No, they decide whether they want to inject Daxi over Dysport. They get to decide whether they want to go with SkinCeuticals, Neocutis, or any of them. I give them all the options. I have all the accounts, and they decide what's best for them in their practice, serving their patients. They make those crucial decisions.
This is heaven. I can't believe it. This is
I
heaven.
enjoy what I'm doing. I love seeing folks open the doors, take down the barriers. It's a very difficult industry to get into. I've talked to hundreds of providers that have taken half day, full day, 2 day courses. They've spent onwards up to $6,000 for their training. They finish that training, they're super excited, they're ready to get into aesthetics transition. and then they hit this wall because they're unable to sometimes even get a interview because nobody has 1, 2, or 3 years of experience. And so what our model says is have that training, get the insurance, get a clinical director to oversee your treatments, and you can begin practicing the very next day after your training. Okay. Now, you are responsible for finding your own patients. That's the only thing that we do not provide is patient acquisition. But as I mentioned before, you start with your social circle. You start with your friends, your family, your coworkers, and you'd be surprised how many people want to support you as you transition and this journey of getting into aesthetics.
Yeah, plus they're getting such a nice support system and mentorship, guidance. There's so much.
And I will say one thing, what we're seeing that is really making a big difference is the community. There's a community aspect. I tell the nurses, you're not the only one that is fresh out of school. There are many people here that are in the same situation as you are. I have a group chat set up. I have an email distro list. We have monthly Zoom calls, and it's incredible because the nurses are talking, hey, what credit card machine are you using? Anybody want to buy a vial and let's practice injecting on each other? Can someone tell me about the EMR and what do you suggest? And how are you finding patients? And have you tried this Facebook group? And it's just this constant conversation among all the providers. So the community is really what's making a big difference because everyone's in it together. Everyone's helping and supporting each other. I'm here to help them, and they are taking the bull by the horns. I see it. It's just been a very awesome experience.
My mind is blown. I just am so excited about your model. I'm curious about how you manage the technology. So the need for an EMR, the need for an all-in-one appointment booking system, CRM, automations. How are you managing that with advancing aesthetics?
So the EMR is an important piece, before and after pictures, keeping track of your patients and the treatments. Not to mention that the clinical director has to be part of that interaction. So you have to have an EMR. Now, here's where we're different from a traditional medical spa is that the practitioner can decide on which EMR they want to use. I don't dictate that piece. There are many, many out there that are available to the nurses and they pick whatever the one they want to use. All we ask is that your clinical director slash medical director is connected to that EMR so they can provide that proper oversight.
Okay, so the booking system, the EMR, CRM, all the monthly marketing systems, that's all on the practitioner, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, all right. And I have ideas. I'll put it in show notes on those fronts too. Jay, thank you so much. And really, I hope you all appreciate. Get in touch with Jay. What's the web address if anyone wants
It's
to get in touch with you?
www.advancingaesthetics.com. I tend to tell people that your best bet is to follow us on Instagram. That's updated almost daily and has a lot of really good information. And that's Advancing Aesthetics Suites, all one word. If you're in the Chicagoland area, we are located in Chicago in Old Town. I have people that are traveling 20, 30 miles to come to our facility and actually treat their patients because they've had no other options. We are giving them those options. I give tours of our facility every single day. And I actually encourage that because you can see firsthand that our treatment rooms are fully stocked. You can see the devices, you can see how everything flows, and you get a better understanding of what this concept is. So when you come in and you block out a room for an hour, everything is here ready for you. You have everything at your fingertips. All you have to focus on is your patient and providing the best service to that patient. And then me as the Cloud Med Spa, Advancing Aesthetics takes care of everything else.
That's great. Thanks so much, Jay.
Awesome. Thank you
Take
so much,
care.
Erica.